I'm quite literally using a stack of books as my stand right now because I left my stand back on campus, so we'll have to make do with what we have. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. If you're new around here just like me, my name is Madeline, and because we're in the middle of June, which is halfway through 2025, time flies by so fast, it's actually insane. This is no microphone, this just acts as a stand-in microphone until I actually get one. What we're going to do today is I am going to share with you my very personal opinion. I will be yapping to all of you about my opinion on books that I was expecting to be good and was significantly let down after reading them. Personally, I think these opinions are about to get quite spicy. In my opinion, they're kind of saucy, they're kind of controversial because these books are kind of well loved by the booktok and the booktube community. As long as you take this video with a grain of salt, you'll be fine. Come on, you know, tomorrow is a new day, everything's gonna be okay. Just because someone that doesn't have the same book opinion as you do doesn't mean it's the end of the world. So I got a list here, it's on some scrap paper. This list has a few books that I was really expecting to love this year, but was very let down by the outcome after reading it. So the very first book on this list is the very much anticipated book PrivateRites by Julia Armfield. Now, if you know me, I loved Julia Armfield's Our Wives Under the Sea. It is one of the best books out there. It explores horror and grief and longing in a way that you've never experienced before. And knowing how good Our Wives Under the Sea was, I definitely was looking forward to getting more of her works like PrivateRites and also Salt Slow. Let's talk about the general story of PrivateRites and what it actually talks about. So this book follows three sisters after their father's death, and so because of this death they are forced to reunite with each other to, you know, get the funeral done, talk about inheritance. And in fact, this book is actually a spin-off or a twist of the play King Lear, but basically it's a sort of a retelling or reimagining of King Lear. And what happens after these three sisters reunite is that they start finding out some strange things about their family, their father, their house. Some weird things keep happening, and in the end the horror gets revealed. Now, seeing how well Julia Armfield incorporated this form of horror into her books that we've never really encountered before, I've never encountered before. Even as someone who reads horror, I'm pretty sure Our Wives Under the Sea is really good. It's like top tier. So knowing how good she incorporated this kind of horror of the unknown into Our Wives, I was expecting the same thing with PrivateRites. Now, my issue with this book is that for the first 50% of the book, literally nothing is going on. And for the first half of this book, I could not care less about these sisters. I do not care about their family drama, unfortunately, and I do not really care about their background. It's like, it makes it a bit difficult to like these sisters when you're expecting something more, but then you don't get it. I think it's also because I was horribly misled by the description of this book. I feel like the description is also an issue because the outcome of horror in this book is so different, and it comes so late into the book. Like, the horror elements of this book only gets revealed in like the 10%, the last 10% of the book. Why did it take so long to get there? Like, what were we doing this whole time? And the reason why it took us so long to get there was because like 80% of the book was basically just family drama, info dumping, just sisters arguing, blah 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 blah, Mandy. And it's like, dude, I get it, it's a King Lear retelling, but I also want the horror elements, and I don't see it being incorporated. And there are certain times when there's like these weird occurrences, these weird coincidences, but for some reason none of these sisters seem to care or give a reaction to these incidents. For some reason they're so nonchalant about it, and it weirds me out because it's being brushed off just like that. The last 10% of the story, I kid you not, it's like the last 10 pages, 15 pages, 20 pages of the story, then you finally get an idea of what kind of horror this book brings to the table. And I can tell you that it's just not that good. Here's where I'm gonna give a spoiler. This book talks about the horror of losing a family member, the horror of the ordinary, and also the horror of climate change. And see, the thing is, the writing is phenomenal. Okay, I love Armfield's prose. It is so good, so high tier. If I had the chance to read PrivateRites done in a much more cohesive way, I would, because the writing is just that good. But if you're waiting until the last 10% of the book to finally reveal this whole thing like a gotcha moment, then it's like, is this thing even worth reading anymore? It's like, no, it's not. I think the kind of horror depicted in PrivateRites is simply not the kind of horror that I was expecting, not the kind of horror I was hoping it had. Because knowing Armfield, they love to write about the horror of the sea, the horrors of the deep, you know, the horrors of the ocean, horrors of the water. When I got to that part, it was just so disappointing. I was like, is that it? That's it? That's the statement? That's the theme of the story? I don't know, I just felt like there was just too many things going on. Like, you have the sisters, different alternating POVs, and then you have this boringly long descriptions about their lives and how they contrast with each other and how they lead different lives and the arguments that they get into and how they grew up differently and how they have the girlfriend's POV. It's so many things at once, so many ideas that don't tie together, and that's what makes this book disappointing for me. It just doesn't hit. So if anyone is looking to start a book by Julia Armfield, I 100% recommend Our Wives Under the Sea over PrivateRites because it is phenomenal. The writing is phenomenal. The characters, the plots, the mystery, the horrors of it, phenomenal. Finishing PrivateRites made me want to read this for the second time, just out of spite, because I missed this kind of horror so bad. This one's a fairly famous book. It might be controversial. Almond by Won-Pyung Sohn, or Sohn Won-Pyung. I read this book like 2 years ago, I think. I remember feeling kinda about it the first time I read it, and because it's been so long since I read the book, I decided to reread it so I could have a more objective opinion on it, if I still dislike the book to this day or if my opinion has changed. So I decided to reread it before selling it off to someone else, which is a habit I do often. It's sort of like cramming. I reread Almond and I still didn't like it. I still didn't like it. I'm sorry. Oh, wait, no, I'm not gonna say I'm sorry. Okay, let me tell you what Almond is about. Almond is about a teen boy. He's about a boy. He suffers from this condition called alexithymia. So he suffers from this condition, and it's a condition that makes you difficult to feel, or makes it difficult for you to not just express your feelings but also to identify emotions and feelings, to process them. So because of this, he has difficulty with growing up, with making relationships. He's different from his friends. He doesn't have your usual, he doesn't really understand social cues. My issue with this book is that I can't really seem to talk much about the alexithymia itself, because number one, I'm not someone with alexithymia, so I can't talk about whether, like, how good of a book this is in terms of representation, okay? And that's what I really want right now. If anyone has any resources or any friends or family or mutuals, I guess, who has alexithymia, I really, really, really want to hear their opinions on Almond, because look, I'm not the best person to be talking about the accuracy of this book in terms of the representation of this condition, and I need to know that so bad, because everyone's saying that this book is so good, it's so tear-jerking, blah blah blah, but I feel like it was so surface level. It's kind of like a surface level type of book. I just felt like it lacked substance, if anything. I really want to know what your thoughts are on this book as a person who actually has alexithymia. Because until someone with the same condition talks about how good this book is, we'll never know how accurate it is. And this is something that I don't see book talkers or booktubers or people who consume this book question. We're so insistent about accurate representation of neurodiversity, So like, where's this one? Hello? The lack of depth in the characters. I feel like, first of all, the deaths feel so sudden, so comical, so unrealistic. And the ending also feels comical, so unrealistic. I love a good ending, but I also don't want the endings to be cliche. Is that too much to ask for? I'm sorry, I'm just really picky. If anyone has alexithymia, I don't know if I'm saying that right, I hope I am. If anyone has this condition, please read this book and let me know your thoughts. I need to know so bad. Just know that I didn't enjoy this book. Okay, next on my list is also a very, very famous book on TikTok, on YouTube, on a lot of bookish platforms. Give me a second to burp. Excuse me, thank you. I don't have the physical book right now because I sold it off, because that's how much I hated it. But the next book is Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Bazterrica. Before we get into the very controversial opinion of mine, let's talk about what Tender is the Flesh is about. Tender is the Flesh is about a dystopian world where humans can no longer eat animal meat because of a virus that has infected all of the animals, which makes their meat no longer safe to consume. Now you may be wondering, what about plant proteins? What about plant alternatives? Well, I had the exact same question and it was never answered throughout the book, so that's already an issue by itself. The problems that I had with this book, first of all, everything stems from the fact that the idea was brilliant, but the execution was poor. Now, when I jumped into this book, I was hoping that it would be a good social commentary on a lot of important things in this world, like classism, animal cruelty, slavery. What I got instead was this graphic, grueling, step-by-step description about humans, or as they say, products, being processed in the meat plant. Like, even to the tiniest, to the minuscule details, you'll get to know what happens to them step by step. And it's like, you know, I don't really have a problem with that. Sure, it's gruesome, it's shocking to some people, but other than that, we don't really get anything. You know, like, I was hoping that we would have some answers about how this kind of world came to be. And the thing is, we did, but it was very brief. Like, if you missed that scene, you would have thought that it wasn't an answer. Or the lack of explanation in that sense really makes me question on whether this book is written to be a social commentary, or it was a book that wants to be carried by its shock factor. And that was the biggest issue I had with Tender is the Flesh. I thought that the idea was there, the execution wasn't. That's a problem that a lot of the books I didn't like have in common. While we are in this world where we eat human meat, we follow one of the guys who work at that meat plant. And I actually don't remember his name anymore, but basically the main character, he's going through some stuff with his family. He just lost his child. His wife is going through the after effects of a miscarriage. He's grieving basically for his dead child, and also his father is very, very sick, and he has a very poor connection with his sister. He doesn't really like her. And one day he gets a personal human as a pet. Now, these humans, we don't really call them humans, but I don't really remember what the name is anymore, but I'll call them like human product. He got one out of privilege, probably, as a secret, and he was told, just do whatever you want with it. And he was hesitating at first, but then he really didn't want her. But then he used her to get pregnant. And it was like, I don't know, y'all. I really don't. The shock factor from the meat processing plant was already bad enough. And then you were telling me this guy, this unknowing woman meat product to make a baby out of. And he just disposes her in the end. And the thing is, you know, with zero knowledge about the world, with so many facts about this meat plant, with so little context of how this world came to be, I really fail to empathize or like the main character of the story, because I just simply could not give a flying fuck about him. I was dragging my feet throughout the story because I just didn't care. I did not care about your family problems. I did not care your child died. I do not care your father died. I don't feel bad about your sister living luxuriously. What do you want me to do about it? Like, I don't even understand how we got here, you know? We're not given any answers. How the hell am I supposed to know? That's my biggest gripe with this story, is that there are so many questions left unanswered, and this author wants me to read this book and like this book purely out of shock factor. You can't measure how good a book is based on shock factor. It's the same thing with movies, you know? If horror movies keep relying on shock factors, it doesn't guarantee that it's gonna be good. That's why you have movies like Hereditary. There's so many ways to make horror better while successfully making it a form of social commentary. And that's what Tender is the Flesh failed to do. The next book on my list is also a book that I have read 5 years ago, I think, around 5 years ago, and that is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This is also a booktok, booktube favorite. I know it is. So you see, I have the special hardcover edition. I got it secondhand. One of my best friends described this book as baby's first yaoi. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of agree. She's right. Baby's first yaoi. When I read this book back then, I was kind of neutral about it. Like, I didn't really feel connected to Patroclus or Achilles because number one, I'm not really that big of a Greek mythology nerd. Number two, I just could not care. They were not very interesting characters to me. So I made it my mission to reread it, to really remember if I was right. And I was right. I still don't care about them. So while I was rereading it, the biggest gripe I had with this book was the fact that, you know how, if you're writing a fictional retelling, some authors, their style is to retain the classic way of speaking. So obviously they're gonna speak like older people do back in the day. So that's what they did in the book. But occasionally you'll find some phrases or words or slang that don't belong in historical setting. So you'll find words like credit, not like the credit like money, like credit as in, oh, you're gonna take the credit, like that's out of place. And then you have swear words like fuck, which is also out of place because I don't think that word would exist back then. So where's the alternative for it? It's just a little suspicious to be in here. And that's my gripe with this book, and I'm only realizing that now. I was a little unattentive to be realizing that back then. So when I got to the middle part of the book, which is when Achilles is summoned to go to war over Helen, I stopped and DNF'd this book because I simply did not care anymore. So I thought it was a waste of time to read it, especially in a style that feels very juvenile, writing that felt very juvenile. I know I was not gonna have a good time. I am all for DNFing books that you do not enjoy because life is too short and we are here for a good time, not a long time. But sometimes I pull through, like some of the books that I mentioned before. Sometimes I finish them out of spite. So DNFing this one midway meant I really was not enjoying it. And the thing is, I have Circe. So I don't know if you can see, but I have another book, Circe, which is also Madeline Miller's work. And because of my mixed feelings towards The Song of Achilles, I really don't know if I want to start Circe. I heard that it was much better, but I don't know. I feel like they're much more catered towards young adults. I feel like the writing isn't really on par to what I'm used to, which is what made it difficult to consume. The next book that I have a problem with, the next book that I did not enjoy, was Honeybees and Distant Thunder by Riku Onda. It was translated by Philip Gabriel. So I actually bought this book on a whim. I've never heard of it before prior to reading this book, so I bought this on a whim because I kind of liked the description of the story. There's this prestigious piano competition and the story follows 3 main characters. One of the characters called Aya, she is or was a piano genius. She was I'm literally reading words off the description because I'm trying to remember. But basically, she was a genius pianist whose mother just passed away, and because of that, she was having like, you know, a genius in crisis, and that puts her in a slump. We also have Makun. Makun is like, so Makun and Aya. Makun is also a pianist. I forgot his actual name. Okay, so I think his name is Masaru. So Masaru is also a pianist. He and Aya have actually met back then when they were still children. They learned piano together. In fact, either one of them, I don't remember who, but either one of them started piano because of the other. So Masaru also is a genius pianist. He's a competitor and he plays piano very well. He's like one of the more neutral characters. Then we have Jin. Now Jin is the most interesting character of the story because number one, he's very young. Number two, he's also a piano prodigy. And the thing that makes Jin interesting is that he is not a professional piano player. He's not a competitor. He is simply the son of a beekeeper. So who is this boy? And he's very young too. So like, who is this boy who shows up and just snatches all of the trophies? Well, he didn't snatch the trophies, but who's this random boy dressed as a farmer showing up at the competition and just plays so controversially? And I mean quite literally, because there were judges who loved it and there were judges who hated it. So basically it was like a spectrum, you know? So not only was this boy, the way he plays is controversial, but he was also personally trained by a very, very famous professional pianist who selected this boy himself to be his, what's that word, student. I think there's a better word for it, but basically he was personally selected to study under one of the best professional pianists of the time, which completely baffles these judges because what the hell? Who is this kid? While Aya is struggling with finding her sense, her purpose in piano again, Jin shows up and becomes like this beacon of inspiration for Aya because he's weird and the way he plays is conventional but also very inspiring. So it sounds good, right? It sounds like a good story, but it was also a nothing burger story. I didn't really see or understand the development of these characters. I especially didn't understand Jin the most because I still don't understand why he plays the piano. And because I don't understand Jin, who plays such a big role in this story and other characters' development in the story, I don't see how the story is any important to me anymore because I just don't understand it. I don't think Jin's character was explained really well, how his purpose to play the piano, how his passion developed. Like, please do let me know if you have read this book and what your thoughts are about it, because I felt like it was such a nothing burger book, you know? Nothing burger as in I didn't really get anything from it. And I know that not every book has to have a purpose or a message or a take-home lesson learned, moral of the story kind of thing, but not having an impact on your reader, or your reader not being able to describe how they feel after a story, isn't that even worse? I didn't know what to make of the story. I didn't know what the message was, what the point of these characters were, especially for Jin. Because of that, I didn't enjoy it. And the last book on my list is by an author that I actually really love. She's the same author as the book Strange Weather in Tokyo. Now, if you know me, you'll know that Strange Weather in Tokyo is my favorite, one of my favorite books ever. One of my favorite romance books ever. Like, here's the thing, I don't even read romance, but this romance, like, this is, I love romance about old people. I love old people romance, okay? I mean, to be fair, they're not even that old, but like, finding love in your older years, isn't that cute? So because I loved Strange Weather in Tokyo by Hiromi Kawakami, I thought I was gonna love her other works. But okay, first of all, disclaimer, I haven't read all of her works. I haven't read Nakano Thrift Shop. I haven't read the 3 Loves or Lives of Mr. Something. So I read her other 2 works, which are both a collection of short stories, which are Record of a Night Too Brief and People from My Neighborhood. I'm not really sure how to describe these stories because they're weird. They are weird for the sake of being weird, and that's what makes the story not enjoyable for me. I remember liking the second story of Record of a Night Too Brief. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, there was like 3 main stories from Record of a Night Too Brief, and I liked the second one the most because I could decipher some themes from that story, such as, you know, sexual assault, isolation, things like that. Because it's easier to pinpoint themes, it was much more enjoyable. But then you get to the first and third part of the story, and you also get stories from People from My Neighborhood, and it's like, what exactly am I reading here? You know how books are weird for the sake of being weird? Books like that are just, they're just not it for me, you know? People from My Neighborhood is a collection of short stories about literally people from the narrator's neighborhood, and at first I was like, okay, this is gonna be like a cute short story thing, like it's gonna be daily lives about other people. But then it started getting weird. It started getting into like a magical fantasy realm, magical realism, sort of weird, and I was like, I was lost, you know? I didn't understand what was going on. And these, because they're short stories, it's difficult to really understand the message or the point or the objective of these short stories, which are so different from one another because they tell about different characters. Not a single one of them had an understandable theme. So I don't really know what these stories were talking about. Hi, this is Maular editing here. I totally forgot to clarify that one of the reasons why I was also confused by this book was because I went in blind without reading the description, so that added to my confusion on this book. Okay, bye. Listen, I've tried reading forums, ratings, people's opinions on Goodreads and other platforms on these books, and I'm not the only one who didn't understand, so I can't really say that I'm the only stupid one. I can't say that I didn't get these stories because I'm stupid. I just didn't enjoy them because realistically they were weird for the sake of being weird. So that was what made these books unfortunately unenjoyable for me, and that was really unfortunate because I really was hoping to like these collection of short stories because Hiromi Kawakami wrote Strange Weather in Tokyo so well. Under the Eye of the Big Bird is also a book by Hiromi Kawakami that I personally enjoyed. I liked it. It was also a collection of short stories that took place in a imaginative future world of humans. And I can see that the book isn't for everyone. That's fine. I can understand why. But at least there were some you know, you can still understand the themes of the story, the concept, the message, the take-home messages from the story. So it wasn't as bad as these. That was really unfortunate. I was really looking forward to reading these short stories, but it just was, they were not it. So that's all from the list of books that I was expecting to enjoy, but unfortunately did not. Please do not let these opinions influence yours. If you have another opinion, that's completely fine. These are mine. You are free to disagree with them, because that's just life. Not everyone's gonna agree with you or see the same thing. But please, 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 I beg you, be respectful to other people and do not, you know, look down on other people just because they have a different opinion than yours. So these are the books that I did not enjoy from half of 2025, and so that is all from me. I hope to see you again soon. Bye bye.